My wife and I, we run quarterly meetings where we just come together and just examine everywhere we are, where we're going. We leverage some basic tools like personal capital, and we leverage Mint. And we make it a celebration, man. We'll prepare a nice brunch and we'll sit down on a Saturday afternoon and we'll just pour into the finances and make sure we have accounting for every dollar and discussing any particular goals that we have upcoming.
You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their current portfolio allocation. Now to your hosts, Clark Sheffield and Jace Mattinson.
Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, episode 205 here. This is Clark here with my co-host, Jace. Jace, what's going on? Anything new in your life?
Not a whole lot, man. Doing pretty good. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. We were just chatting a little bit before, and we just wanted to play an audio clip or an audio message that we received from Billy. And so let's play this from Billy, and then we'll talk about that.
Hey, what's up, guys? First off, thank you so much for your awesome show. This I believe is my favorite podcast. Never miss an episode. Love Monday mornings, and really appreciate you guys. One question I have for pretty much any millionaire that would be appropriate, or even from you guys. I just love hearing the genuine stories, the ups and the downs. I'm on my own journey, and we all know things aren't always easy. Sometimes things happen, and we don't have a straight line to success. So any examples or mindsets on just plodding along, even when maybe there's not as much extra to save or to invest, but just kind of keeping that long view in mind. And any real stories of perhaps somebody who was on their journey doing great, and then maybe they saw a dip, maybe there was a life situation that caused more expenses or whatever, what have you. Any stories like that includes just that real up and down and how they dealt with it. Would love to hear your thoughts on that, as I know that's something that would help me. And but either way, thank you guys for what you're doing. Keep up the great work, and I'll keep on listening.
Okay, so really the question is, how do you maintain a long-term approach, right? How do you maintain a long-term perspective when things may be moving slower than usual? So I'll kind of give my 2 cents, I feel like, on what I've picked up from people that we've interviewed on the podcast. We tried to think about a few millionaires that come to mind, but I know there's been a lot, especially that have paid off debt, and it's taken a while, and how they kept that approach. But for me personally, and some of the lessons that I've learned from others, is the first thing is to keep listening to the story. So I think a lot of people have found motivation through hearing other people's stories, and that could be on our show. A lot of people mentioned Dave Ramsey as well, but just trying to hear other people's story, how they're doing it, celebrating their successes. And then sometimes you hear about a situation that's challenging, and you just start to relate that to your own situation and how you can learn from it and how the situation's different. And so, that was always motivating for me when I was starting early on investing, is trying to learn, but also understand what other people were doing and how that could relate to my individual journey. I think the second step is it helped me to track it and to see my progress. And admittedly, sometimes it looks like it's not moving as fast as you would like or not growing as fast as you would like. But when you can see that progress side by side, that kind of helped me maintain a long-term approach. And then lastly, I think we've heard a couple times on the show that people celebrate the moments. They celebrate small victories, small wins here and there with their finances. They set goals. I mean, it's one of the reasons Dave Ramsey talks about snowballing your debt, is once you get the ball rolling, it continues to go and continues to move. So that's an important piece of it too. Once the progress starts, it snowballs a little bit faster. So those are my kind of quick 3 thoughts, Jace, in terms of keeping your eye on big picture and how to keep yourself motivated when trying to either get over debt or get out of a bad situation, or to continue to grow your net worth when you feel like you're not making progress as quickly as you would like. What's your take?
Yeah, I think you made some really good points. I think celebrating some of those small wins along the journey is big deal, right? Whether it's 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, whatever the mark is, just to get started, whether it's paying down debt or, just building up the net worth and then tracking, like you mentioned. I think, it's really easy for us to maybe go, and look at, I haven't made any progress. But when you look at it on a spreadsheet and you see what you've accomplished, month over month, quarter over quarter, and year over year, you really start to, see, and it's not obviously all in 1 year, but, start looking at decade over decade, down the road, it's like, wow, you really have come a long way. And so I think just, staying the course, sticking to the investment strategy that you choose, and making sure that you track it and stay focused and celebrate those wins are good tidbits to kind of stay focused. And, everyone's on their own journey, and everyone's going to do things a little bit differently and at different rates and have, defined success differently. But if you just kind of keep yourself in those bounds that you've set for yourself and focus on that, you're in a game against yourself. And, if you keep that focus, I think you'll have a lot of success, looking back on the decades and whatnot.
Yeah, I think there's also that saying that, I'll butcher it here, but there's that saying that you overestimate what you can accomplish in a year and underestimate what you can accomplish in 5 or 10. So yeah, I think not getting discouraged by, in a quarter or 6 months or a year or even 2 years and trying to model out big picture 5, 10 years where you're going to get to, I think that helps keep some perspective as well. So thanks to Billy for writing that question in. If you have an answer, something that you may be able to share, we'll share these if people want to respond and connect and share answers. I think it would be interesting. So go to our website, millionairesunveiled.com, hit the tab Ask a Millionaire, and you can either write in or send a recording. We'd be happy to hear from you and happy to hear any new questions as well. So last week, just as a quick reminder, we had Trey, 33 years old. He had a software company. Most of his net worth, $2.3 million, is in that, but interesting to hear about him and what he's doing with small business, especially. This week, we have Marvin. He has a net worth of over $1 million, and it's mainly invested in the stock market. So anybody who's interested more in the stock markets, less in real estate, Marvin may be your guy. So fun interview coming up with him. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Again, if you have a question for us or any of the millionaires, go to our website, millionaires.com, hit the tab Ask a Millionaire. We'd love to hear from you and include it in the show. So without any further delay, let's get into episode 205 with Marvin.
Marvin, you want to just give us a little about your background and what you're up to now?
Yeah, sure thing. First, thanks for having me, guys. Marvin, been married for 15 years. My wife and I, we're child-free. And currently working in an HR organization.
Awesome. And what is your net worth today?
Right over $1 million, $1,025,000.
Awesome. Congrats on being a millionaire. How is that broken up?
So the big portion of it is in retirement accounts. So more specifically, there's about $785 that's sitting in retirement accounts. And the rest is broken out. So cash, I sit on about 50 grand cash, about 30,000 in home equity, about 80 or so thousand in VTSAX, and the rest is broken up in just some other company stocks. About 90 grand in my current company stock. A good old T. Rowe Price account from back in the day I just haven't touched. It's about 15 grand in there. It's in a Roth IRA.
Well, you got quite the diversification. So let's jump into a few of these accounts. Retirement accounts, is that basically a traditional 401k or a traditional IRA?
Yeah, traditional 401ks.
Okay. And is that invested in equities or bonds? How's that broken up?
Mainly in equities. Very, very little is in bonds. And it's interesting. A lot of it are there really like S&P accounts across the board is where most of that money is allocated.
Awesome. And has it always been like that since you started investing or started your professional career?
It really has. So I started the 401k investing very early on. Started working, just putting in at least like the minimal, whatever the company match was at the time. And then kind of heard that it's good to try to find within those accounts something that matches the market like S&P. And so I always just kind of had that minimal information and guided the funds that way.
Awesome. So, Marvin, let me ask, did you start maxing out those accounts or getting the match when you took your very first job out of school?
No. So for me, first, right out of school, I began in the military and didn't save anything. So I had like a good 5 years there where just didn't save. and didn't begin. So I lost ground there. And then the first job after that just began with like 3%, very, very minimal amount. Probably it took me an additional 5 years before it was like, okay, definitely minimal company match. And then try to get up to, like, my goal was like to get up to 10%.
So you've really never maxed it out?
I've only started maxing it out over like the last, 3 to 4 years.
Wow. So you built up quite the portfolio with just contributing. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. So between my wife and I have very similar stories in that realm. And so where my wife, she was a bit more disciplined with it. She had some advice from her mother early on that was like, she didn't share a lot, but it was, hey, save 10% and make sure that's in a 401k. So my wife, she's been on target for that majority of time. For me, now I didn't have a lot of that ground, not until later on.
Interesting. So going forward, do you plan to continue to max it out, or are you going to slow down a little bit and contributing now that you've basically gotten to the point where it's probably making more money than you can contribute to it, right? Year over year.
Yeah. and really, I kept it just maxed out now. It's like for a good, decent tax break, but I hadn't really had plans on doing anything else with it for a little bit though. I did pull back some, about 6 months this year, invested that money while the market was going down. And it was a really good time. I mean, not the market going down, but it was the first time I was able to say, you know what, I'm going to take advantage and just invest and we poured money into VTSAX and benefited pretty well from it.
What gave you either the insight or the ability to say that you're going to go and invest? And I'm assuming that's in a taxable account versus putting it in your retirement account and investing just cash. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what gave you the ability, whether it's mindset or the intuition, to go ahead and do that as in the pandemic hits? I'm sure when you're talking about when the market took a little dip there, you were able to take advantage, I guess. What gave you comfort that you were buying at a good time and maybe it wasn't going to go down even more?
It's probably a combination of just various podcasts that I will listen to and others insights from like the Choose a 5 page or Fat Fire page. And then I used to listen to a lot of there was a podcast called Optimal Finance Daily. I tell you, man, those like little 9-minute blog readings, I came across so much information about how the market would always continuously go up. It's going to have its dips, but if you're able to remain steady and not pull your money out when it dips, you're going to benefit. And I say a combination of all those items really just propelled me this time to say, you know what, I'm going to do it. Got a really good feeling that, things would be relatively okay afterwards. And went ahead and began investing. Like it was pretty intense because it was like end of March, April, and May timeframe when things were like doom and gloom. But man, I tell you, it really panned out. So it was really, I think, that discipline from listening to those various inputs and then actually just taking a chance to execute on it.
So did that investing during COVID, is that what helped you become a millionaire, or were you already there pre-COVID?
No, I would say I was about 940s, 935-ish. And that push there, I forget when I made that post, but right when things were swinging back up was I contributed a lot towards investing in that dip.
Yeah, good for you. And then I just want to circle back to your home equity. You said about $30,000 in home equity, right?
Yes.
How much is your home worth?
Home's worth $300,000.
Okay. And did you do an FHA loan on that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And how come you decided to do that? It's interesting.
Yeah, just I don't know, just felt like the right thing to do at that time when it was going into purchase. So yeah, we just went that route.
And does paying off the home early or aggressively interest you, or do you have it on a 30-year and are in no rush to pay it off? Just curious to get your take, because I think our millionaires differ here.
Yeah, that's a great question. So for us, it's a balance. I'm right now, I'm putting in like an additional $800 a month towards the mortgage. And, it's I forget that exact balance rate. I think that's right at the halfway point of a 30-year. And so I didn't want to be too aggressive, but I didn't want to not put anything. Just went ahead and allocated that amount and just been on auto paying it down.
And you have 15, you said?
It's on a 30.
Okay, 30 years. So your payments, what, around $800 a month or something?
They're right about, I think taxes and all, like 13, something like that.
Okay, with the escrow stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So let's just take a step back here, Marvin, because I know we talked a lot about your allocation primarily in retirement accounts, which is amazing there. I mean, such a high balance, right? Almost 800,000 in retirement accounts. But let's back up to your story. Like, who's Marvin and how did this all start?
Yeah. So I ultimately, just got out. I served in the military for 5 years. Got out and didn't really fully know what I wanted to do right away, and just began tapping back into what I did in the military, which was a lot of training. Was able to jump into the world of learning and development, and began exploring as a business partner for some retail organizations. Really honing in my skills in that space. And then career has just been progressively moving along in that realm. And just along the way, just figuring out, what do I want to do, with these funds that are coming in. Another part of the story for me is my wife and I decided very early on to be child free. And it's just, that's been a really cool thing to be able to explore. It just gives us a lot of more flexibility. And then also it just enables us to do things that neither one of us were able to see in our circles, either growing up at home or even in current circles. I've always known people with families, and it's always certain obligations, but, being in this space, it just allows us to do, really cool vacations, and we're always hanging out to do, just kind of enjoying friends, enjoying life. But I think we're at that point now. We're trying to figure out what exactly do we thoroughly enjoy to do that we can't buy.
Right.
It's kind of a disturbing question for us. So, which leads us into all this space of, what are we going to do with these, with these funds? I mean, after a while, consumerism is just exhausting, or that lifestyle inflation. That's, it's just nonstop. So now what do you do? And that's kind of where we are now, just really mapping out where do we want to go? What do we want to do ultimately?
Yeah. So along that line, any interest in retiring early?
Yeah. For us, and I've heard various people describe that retire has such a negative connotation. It's like, oh, retire means you're going to go fishing.
Right.
Right. For us, we're like, we do have aspirations to get to a point where we don't have to, maintain these corporate roles, but being able to just have that freedom just to choose to do whatever. I can see myself doing a lot of consulting on the side. I just purely enjoy it. And same thing for my wife. We do a lot of giving back at various places, like in schools or in churches, to where we began sharing out just the basics of finance. I mean, nothing fancy, just to straight up save your money and don't go into too much debt and get out of debt, all the basics. Because I find that, there's a lot of challenge with just that whole, because we're being marketed to 24/7. So I always feel that need to buy and, consume. It's like just breaking that alone and we're sharing that information with people has been rather eye-opening and a good time.
Yeah, so let me just jump. We'll come back to this because I want to keep going on it, but let me just jump back. How come you joined the military in the first place? Just curious. And thank you. Obviously, thanks for your service as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You're welcome. I had a good friend and also some family members, but I'll speak of my good friend who had an uncle who was a colonel in the Air Force. And I thought he was the coolest guy in the world. Always told these great stories. And, as a kid, when you're hearing these kind of stories, I'm 16, I'm like, man, this guy has traveled all over the place. And he had such a sense of purpose and had so much pride in, what he was doing for the mission of our country and protecting the country. And I was like, man, I want to do that. So between him and I had two of my uncles as well who retired from the military, and just that whole sense of pride that I would see in them. It was really inspirational to say, like, you know what, I want to follow in those footsteps to go explore and, and serve the country. It was a really, really, really cool feeling. And decided, I was like, right when I turned 17, I was like, this is what I want to do after high school. So yeah, that's what led me to it.
And so did you end up going to college at all?
Yeah, I went some while I was in, and then I finished up undergrad and grad once I left the Air Force.
Okay, good for you. So then you came back, finished up school, and then started working full time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow, good for you. How along this whole journey, right? So you go from joining the Air Force at age 17, right?
Yeah.
And now you're worth 1 million or over $1 million, right? In a short time frame. You and your wife, I should add, right? How aggressive were you along the way? Do you feel like you spent along the way and enjoyed and did these vacations, or were you super, like gazelle intense, as Dave Ramsey says, initially, or what was your balance along this journey?
Yeah, really great question. And so I was introduced to Dave. We got married in 2005. I probably met Dave, his philosophy about 2008. And so right around that time frame was when it was like, we got to get out of debt. That term, that's what it cracks me up when I hear it. Gazelle intense, let's get out of debt. Now, I will say we never fully, like, he's like rice and beans and rice. And I mean, this might be not popular, but I never really bought into that deeply. And so I would help us to allocate a particular amount to Snowball to get out of debt, but it allowed a good amount of cushion to enjoy life along the way. And so I would say we were somewhat intense, but definitely not gazelle intense to get out of debt. And for us, it was cars. I think the cars and student loans were like the biggest things that we carried. Actually, it's interesting because I'm looking at 2008. So 2018 was when we got intense again. And just last year, I think it was September, we were debt free except for the house. So it's kind of went in spurts, I guess.
So you basically became debt free and a millionaire like in a year.
Yeah. So it's so crazy. I remember it was so funny. When we got out of debt and student loans, cars, and man, we were so excited that evening. It was like, we're going to pop some champagne and celebrate. And then map out our plan. So yeah, literally like a year now. It's been the time that we've actually been adding to rather than, that whole see a huge number you subtract from. So it's very, it's a new experience still being able to like, where's this money going? You can really truly see it now. So if you just go into the lenders, now it's like, oh, wait, this is like piling up and it's going nowhere but up and for us. So it's been pretty cool to see.
Marvin, do you regret maybe the route that you took with that debt? Maybe you invested or stopped investing in retirement accounts and paid off the debt earlier, or you happy the journey that you went on and the result is the result?
I think I'm kind of happy with it overall. Actually, I know I am. There were some times during the journey where I was like, man, we should be more, intentional and really lean in on this debt further. But the experiences that I've had throughout, I don't think I'd trade those.
What are some of those experiences that you mentioned?
Yeah. So we love to travel, and this is now we're in what the travel has slowed down tremendously.
Exactly.
But it was impromptu trips to Paris, or we would head to Spain. Love to travel across Europe. It would be let's head to. Remember this restaurant that we tried in downtown Chicago? It's like, oh, let's book that for this weekend. It was really just frolicking around the various cities domestically that we just enjoyed. Love Vegas as an example. Love Miami. So it's things like that. We would find these good deals, or sometimes there wouldn't be a good deal. We would just have the funds allocated, and we just go do it and enjoy.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's something we've talked about with many of our millionaires, how much to live versus how much to save. And whether or not turn it on later. If you've been a saver in your early years, how do you turn it on? When do you turn it on? Or do you do kind of the approach that you've taken where maybe you don't pay off your debt as quickly as maybe you could have, but you have some of those experiences you discussed? At this point, does it give you a sense of comfort to have all that debt paid off?
Actually, it does. It makes me feel like, I don't know. It's like just a weight off your shoulders that you don't even realize is there. And I remember just looking at my student loan. It became such a routine thing, and I shouldn't even had one, but it was just one of those, I'll just take the loan out or whatever. And you would see that number and to see that bill going out month after month after month. And it became so normal that I didn't think about how stressful that actually was until it was paid off. And then you start seeing that money pile up. You're like, oh man, I should have paid this off a while ago, maybe. But yeah, I do feel like a sense of relief.
Those vacations and experiences that you discussed, were those done essentially with debt on a credit card, or was it just something that you chose to budget for those versus maybe paying off debt aggressively?
No, we never really did much with the credit card as far as carrying debt there. It was more so just funds that were allocated. We did do some travel hacking along the way, taking advantage of points for various cards, but we never carried any balance on the credit cards.
Hey, small business leaders, are you looking for an easier way to onboard and manage remote employees? Are you handling all the HR at your company? Well, JustWorks makes it easier for you to start, run, and grow a business. Let me tell you how JustWorks can help your business. JustWorks is the ultimate HR platform for small and growing businesses. With simple software and expert support for benefits, payroll, HR, and compliance. Across the country, small businesses with big dreams love JustWorks for its simplicity, intuitive platform, and time-saving features. Whether your team is remote or in person, you can give them access to national large group health insurance plans and manage onboarding, payroll, PTO, and compliance all in one place. Sure, you can do it all, but why do it alone? Learn how JustWorks can help. Find out how JustWorks can help your business by going to justworks.com. Again, that's justworks.com for more information.
So Marvin, you've got this net worth built up, millionaire. Obviously you've done a phenomenal job. You've got no debt now other than your house that you mentioned. Where do you go from here? Are you targeting a net worth or passive income goal down the road or early retirement or anything special?
For me, definitely the early retirement route is going to be something that we're going to be exploring. And then also, I've been trying to figure out what I would want to do in the real estate world. Right now, we don't have any, but I've often been thinking about here, especially recently, like, man, I wonder if that'd be a good move to help build up some passive income. And then also just give us some projects to work on as well, just from that aspect. So definitely we'll be exploring that relatively soon.
So Marvin, let me jump back just real quick. I'm reviewing my notes here to your allocation. So you mentioned you have, I think you said 90,000. Is that correct in company stock?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And is that stock that you've purchased, or is that like stock options / incentives, or what does that look like?
It's a combination. So some of it was, actually I didn't purchase any. It's just been kind of, how you get those allocations gifted over the years. And I just left it there. Actually, it's from two different companies, combination of the stocks. I just never touched it. Just kind of left it there.
So really, those are the only, if there's just two, are those the only two that where you own individual stocks versus index funds?
Yeah, for the majority is index funds. Now, I did, looking back when Apple just split, I did buy, about $4,500 worth of Apple. But I think that's really all I have as far as stocks. Okay.
And then on your index fund side, just on the retirement accounts, it's more in traditional versus Roth, right? How come you chose that? Was Roth not an option, or just like the traditional aspect?
A little bit of both. So mainly, like, I didn't have that Roth option, but yeah, that traditional piece, it just at the time, it just seemed like it made more sense. And it's funny, I look back at that. I haven't touched those accounts in a good number of years. Just to kind of watch them grow has been very interesting. But yeah, I haven't I didn't really do anything much with those outside of we just invested and just kind of left it alone.
Yeah. So I'm curious now of I'm going to call it your order of operations of what you do with your money now, right? So I assume you're contributing to your retirement accounts, right? But with no debt now, right? You guys are bringing in money every month and saving money every month. Where does that go? Do you just throw that into just a regular investment account? Do you keep it in cash? Are you saving for a specific purchase? Like, where does that money go? Where's that next 6 months of savings or investing going to go?
Yeah, so this year we did we wanted to really pile up some cash just to have a decent cushion. And so that's where we have $50K allocated. But then the rest, we're going to continue to focus in index funds. That's likely going to be when we have our financial meeting, next month? Yeah, next month. That's going to be the big focus. And really the goal for us is I want to save up and allocate $100,000 to VTSAX for that year. It's going to be the target.
And when you say financial meeting, is that with a financial advisor?
No. So my wife and I, we run quarterly meetings where we just come together and just examine everywhere we are, where we're going. We leverage some basic tools like personal capital, and we leverage Mint. And we make it a celebration, man. We'll prepare a nice brunch and we'll sit down on a Saturday afternoon and we'll just pour into the finances and make sure we have accounting for every dollar and discussing any particular goals that we have upcoming.
So does that mean you budget and you review the budget, or you review where everything went?
No, we do budgets. We're really tight on those. As you know, that's another thing I attribute to Dave is that zero based. And so definitely know where every dollar is at all times. These are more checkpoints to check on all the investments to see how they're performing, decide if we want to make any adjustments. A lot of times we don't. Or decide now it's going to be interesting because there's, no debt to deal with. It's more of, okay, do we want to focus our funds in our brokerage account to really increase that space? Or if we're actually trying to decide about, a real estate option, possibly saving towards that. So there's really those. We use the financial advisor, actually not use, had a meeting with one time. To be honest, I just couldn't get past the idea of paying somebody to tell my money where to go. I couldn't understand it.
Well, that's neat on the quarterly meetings. Good for you guys. That's how long you've been doing that?
That's been about, for these last, I would say 8 years.
Good for you. So I assume your wife also works, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And I know just from talking to you before the show, you guys have moved around a little bit. How have you decided where to do that? And that's got to be difficult, right? With two people working, knowing how to manage careers. And if one person gets a great job in one city, someone has to quit their job or work remotely. It sounds hard. How did you manage that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And that is a challenge because both of our careers are just doing very well. And so it's really a challenge to see, okay, here's a new opportunity. Who gets to take it? Who takes the lead on it? And for us, it really, so one thing, like I mentioned earlier on, so we're child free. So that makes it a ton easier. And so it's literally, we can objectively take a look at whatever opportunity is presented and we can dissect it purely upon what we want. And it actually just worked out. So the first two moves initially were based upon my career. And I took a move from a job that I was doing very well and liked it. But at the time, my wife just had a tremendous opportunity. And that's what landed us here. And where I literally I left my job to come to follow, which is very interesting. And luckily was able to network and came across something even better than prior. And so you're literally just blessed or lucky, however you want to put it. It just worked out for us in that manner.
Yeah, good for you. It still takes some work to manage, right? So it sounds like you guys have managed it well, and obviously done financially well. So good for you guys. As you and your wife work, right, and accumulate this wealth, what's your motivator? What's the deep motivator? Is it financial freedom? Is it to be debt free? Is it to travel, right? You do a lot of that. Is it fear of not having enough? What really motivates you?
That's a great question. And so it was getting out of debt, right? That was such a huge thing. I didn't realize it until we got out that we spent a lot of attention and energy like trying to get out. And then it was, let's accumulate. That's now that we're out, let's stack up. That's been the motivator. Of course, travel along the way, but I tell you, it's been challenging since COVID because I think COVID has really made us, I don't want to sound like kind of weird, but it made us examine life differently. We are not going to the restaurants and you're not able to hop on the planes and you're not going to these amazing hotels or resorts and, you don't have to buy these clothes anymore because we're lucky to work from home in t-shirts and t-shirt and shorts. And so
right.
You start thinking like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. And so these past few months, that's really what we've been focusing on is what do we enjoy in life that we can't buy? And it sounds like it's such an easy question. And we just talked about this past weekend. And for us, what it's really been? It's truly appreciating relationships. We would take some for granted, meaning like we text or call but as far as like really nourishing relationships with family, with close friends, and really valuing conversations. We've been doing a ton more reading and just really some of those authentic things where we just enjoy our circles. And that's been something that we've really been focused on, especially in this environment that we're in. So it's that's been a motivator. And the other thing is we have a lot of nieces and nephews in our families. Man, we can see that they could really benefit from just some of the stories that we can share with them. I mean, some are like 19 years old, which is like a prime age for going to college and start thinking about your life. And just investing in them, sharing information, and then also setting up accounts for them. What they don't know about them, but set up accounts for them to kind of prepare them for like by the time they turn 30, they'll have something that they can, be able to work with. So
good for you. You do that for each of them?
Yeah. We have about we do it for about 5 right now, and then we're going to be expanding that here soon.
Wow. And do their parents know about it?
One does, the others don't.
All right, I'll stop asking in case they does your family, like siblings, parents, friends, do they know you're wealthy?
My sister is an accountant and she's the only person in my family that knows. I think others, they have an idea, but it's the idea of, we see them they travel these places. And, some people identify travel with wealth, which is completely bogus, to an extent. But my sister, she's like, I know that they have money accumulated. And actually, she's the one that put me on to the Optimal Finance podcast some years ago, and which really got me into the FI space, paying attention to it.
Marvin, just kind of along that line, do you have plans, going forward as you accumulate this wealth and get to a certain level that you will pass a majority of it down to your nieces and nephews or charities? Or how do you think about that going forward?
Yeah, I think for us, it will be definitely the younger generations in our family, nieces and nephews. We have some other close friends that have young kids. So we're definitely looking in that space, and various charities, church groups, and places like Boys and Girls Clubs that really take time to invest in the younger people. Yeah, we definitely see a lot of it going there in those places.
Nice. Again, good for you. It's pretty amazing. Humbling, right? And motivating to help people that need it or can benefit from it, right? When you're able to.
Agreed.
So let me just ask you a couple rapid fire questions here, and then we'll wrap up with advice and mistakes you've made. But first, I'm curious, as you look back here on this journey, since you joined the military at age 17, Are there a few things that you or your wife or both of you could pinpoint and say, hey, that's what made me financially successful. That's what made me a millionaire?
I would say Dave Ramsey probably was the most transformational early on, even though I didn't stick to his full plan. But just the idea of stop accumulating more debt, that's a huge point. And then I would say there was a blog by Emily, I think it's Emily Guy Birkin, and it's called "There Is No Spoon: Opting Out of the Consumerism Matrix." By far one of the most transformational pieces for me, which was like, okay, we gotta make some changes here, and really helped me along the way.
So along that line, did you feel like you were caught up in consumerism a little bit?
I would say the gentle lifestyle inflation that comes with various promotions, and as your circles begin to change in the corporate structure, you tend to have the at times look around you and think like, oh, and now I'm in this role, I need to have this kind of watch or this kind of car, or these kind of clothes. Oh, maybe I should have this kind of house. And we didn't go full in, but there were some powerful influences subconsciously that was driving me to spend, which when I came across that podcast or that blog, I was like, yeah, man, I'm a consumer. I need to slow down here.
So was that hard?
Initially, yes. It's like when you try to go against that stream everybody's going down, you're like, wait, what? I don't want to do this. So I think feeling it from that aspect, but after a little while, it wasn't as challenging.
Yeah. So what's been one of our rapid fire questions here that we ask, what's been worth the money? So of the stuff that you did buy, what was worth spending more money on to you? And maybe for you, it was travel.
Yeah. I tell you, travel by far, being able to explore various countries and to connect authentically with people that are local in those spaces. That I really, really value that and think that's definitely well worth it.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, what wasn't worth it?
Man, let me tell you what I did. Bought a time.
I like this. This is a good story coming up.
Bought a timeshare, man. It was, now nothing against people that enjoy timeshares. Man, it feels like to me the biggest waste of money. And I bought one. Not only did I do it one time, but then I upgraded it. Oh man, if I went back in time, I would say, dude, don't buy a timeshare. It's okay, don't do it.
And then were you able to sell it?
No, I still have it.
Oh, you still have it. Do you use it?
You know what? I used it one time so far, and I have all these. It's a Hilton timeshare.
Yeah,
and I have all these points and stuff that I actually have to use by next year. I think they extended it because of all the situations. But yeah, it's I don't know, man. It sounds so great. We were in Vegas, and man.
You don't need to go any farther than that. We were in Vegas, the timeshare. Does it make sense for anybody to ever do one? I'm just curious. I mean, I haven't done one myself. I haven't heard the pitches, but I know they're out there.
Yeah, there's a nice long story. No, I don't think it is. But in the right situation where you're like, when you get that penthouse, suite that they're offering, and you see the views and the service, and it's like, it only costs this. So you come back, and I don't know, if they catch you just right in the moment, it feels like it should be okay.
Only in Vegas.
Yeah.
So we haven't dived into this much. How much does it cost?
So this one in particular was, the initial one was like, I think 14,000. And then paid an additional, I think like 12 or 13 to upgrade it. And you pay with the thing that gets you. I mean, it's not even that. It's more so the fees that are associated with it. So to book a trip that's outside of my assigned property, it costs, I think, like $69. And there's fees that you pay yearly. I think we pay like $1,800 every other year. And then there's in between those years, there's like some type of $380 fee that's associated with like HOA. And I mean, it's it's like a drain, pretty now, if we talk again next year after I get back from like Barbados and all that kind of stuff, I'll be like, hey, it's the best thing ever. But,
yeah, right. You call us back, tell us never mind about that.
Yeah, but right now I'm like, I definitely won't do that again.
Okay. Let's see. We talked about financial advisor. How much do you spend a year, annual household spending?
I spend right about $5,800 a month. And so, hey, what's that breakdown?
All right. So you're 68 to 70,000 a year or something.
Yeah. Right around in there is like actual spend.
Okay. And then as much as you're comfortable sharing, what's been your range of household income since you've started working?
Man, since I started working,
give or take.
Yeah. Early on combined we're like, 120. And then it's been ranging now. So more towards, 380.
Wow. Good for you. You guys are crushing it now. I mean, 120 to start's pretty good too, right? Just divided by 2, you're both making 60 grand right off the bat. It's pretty good.
Yeah. It's not bad at all. Not bad.
Yeah. Good for you guys. So just wrapping up here, as you look back over your whole journey, we've talked for 30 or 40 minutes here. Are there any mistakes you've made that you wish you would have done differently? We just talked about the timeshare, or any advice really, right? I mean, for someone coming out of the military or just starting off, or maybe somebody that's in debt, what would be your advice to them?
Yeah. I would say for somebody in debt, just to start asking the questions of why you're in debt. Begin just mapping out a full picture. I mean, I use old basic spreadsheets starting out, just mapping out everything that you're spending money on, that you have bills for, and then start asking, like, is it even worth having this? And start coming up with a plan to get out. That's what it took me a while to really examine it at that level, because everything for a while was just monthly, right? So you don't think about it as much as total costs. So I would run that comparison. Like that car, it was great. It cost this per month, but it's a different conversation when you think about, no, what's the total cost? And then you start thinking about, is it really worth it? And the part that made me think about that the most was probably reading Your Money or Your Life, when you began just breaking out everything that you do cost, right? Where how many hours did that vacation cost you, Marvin? Was that worth it? When you think about, your income coming in and how you're spending it. And so I think those type of sobering thoughts about life and what you're doing with the money you're accumulating or gaining, especially from a W-2 perspective, it kind of puts things in line for me.
Yeah. And just how much debt did you have total?
How much debt total? Man, what was that number? If we can run with the ad with me, I grabbed that with me right away, but I can run it down. So cars were total for both about 50,000. Student loans were about 45. Then this timeshare we just talked about, that was like another 30. Outside of that, there wasn't a ton of just debt.
So you were at, I guess, 120, right, ish, without the house.
Mm-hmm. Yep, right around.
And how long did it take you to pay off once you really started attacking it?
I would say about 3 years. Yeah, about
wow.
About 3 years.
Good for you. Yeah. Well, awesome, Marvin. I mean, what a great story. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing it. Really interesting, and I think it'll resonate with a lot of people. So thank you. And again, everybody, that's Marvin, net worth of over $1 million. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Marvin.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Clark Sheffield and Chase Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website at millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.